So talking about food, when you talked about how you listen to your body and you eat when you're hungry, and when you're not hungry, you don't eat, and so on. I've been playing along with my body for a year, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to be on diets. I used to control my eating. I used to count calories. I used to exercise a lot. I used to do all of the traditional ways of not gaining weight and building some form of muscles and to lose weight. And I found out if you deprive your body into some things, what you actually do is that you trigger an impulse for it all the time. So I decided to go along and eat what my body and my cravings were. So I've been doing that for a year or so, and I also stopped exercising as my body was very tired and I had a lot of ache in my body and so on. So I just stopped exercising, and I just went along eating with as much as I wanted and what I wanted, and I did not pay attention to my body weight. And I think on some level, I think it's balancing out. I came across that I got to be addicted to fat. And I think my body has a reason for why it has developed addiction for fat. But I can see in the way I'm eating that my desires for things shifts. And as long as I'm not sort of force myself not to, I indulge in toast bread with butter and jam and things like that. And one day I don't feel like eating it at all. What I do recognize is I have an addiction for fat. I do eat too much. And I'm gaining weight, which is not healthy. So I would like to find a balance. And so that's my question for assistance here.
So let me offer you some reflections on it, and certainly from my own experience. There's quite a few things in there really that are good, I guess good teaching or good for awareness. Firstly, I love that you've given yourself the time to just unconsciously allow yourself to experience unedited eating. So it's a bit like a spew. One of the things that people often don't understand about the spew is in the encouragement to be unself-conscious in what comes out of your mouth. There's an opportunity for self-witnessing, because when you're editing yourself, or when you're sort of being self-conscious or judgmental about what you're saying, you're not really allowing the true expression as you are in all of your wonderful mess to be seen by yourself. The process often is that as you allow it, you begin to notice where there's well, you mentioned the addiction thing, where there's things that are off, and I think that's a really powerful act of awareness. So I just want to say I love that you've done that, and from that it seems that you have had awarenesses. One of the great gifts of doing it like that, or again like spewing your eating habits, if you like, is that on some level you're dropping the judgment. And one of the things that I've come to learn more than anything else, it's not about what you eat or drink or imbibe in any way, it's the energy you do it with. So you can eat butter and toast, and if you're eating it with joy and you come from it from an energetic level, then what you're eating is joy. And if you're eating it with guilt, then what you're eating is guilt. Or if you're eating it with judgment, then what you're eating is judgment. So there's a certain amount of sort of chemical reality in the body, but actually the energy that you carry with it has the ability to open your body to processing foods in ways that I think we barely understand the capacity of the body to process things. So that's why there are some people in the world that can, smoke until they're 110 with no impact, or they can eat all sorts of, in quotes, unhealthy food and not put on weight or whatever. And those that will do the best diets in the world die young.
Yeah.
And never be able to, in quotes, control their weight, because I think it's a bit like the NLP thing where, your words are, I don't know what it is, 8% of the communication, the tone is, I don't know, 20%. There's the numbers that are not going to add up, and the body language is the rest. That got me out of the maths, didn't it? So I think in the same way when it comes to food and exercise too, but food for sure, the sponsoring energy really is a much bigger factor than we realise. But then when we come to your share, the thing that struck me in there towards the end was eat too much. So that was the first sign of a judgment coming in, because again, at some point somewhere in there, because on one hand there's you can go, I recognise I'm addicted to fats, and from a neutral place you go, oh look, there's an addiction, and then look at it in a neutral way. But when that slips into eat too much, then you're going into that and I judge myself for it land. And then you go from the energy of allowing the flow of self-correction to the energy of back to a form of control, which you've already discovered doesn't work for you. Does that make sense?
So, sort of hitting the brakes and going with the gas. It's what do you call that?
Well, you get nowhere, and
speed. Yeah.
You just spin your wheels and create a lot of smoke and run your tires down really quickly. I think it's a double bind is what you're looking for there. The term is a double bind. In terms of how you sort of work with that, again, it's once you notice the judgment, is to then drop the judgment of the judgment. So again, you come back into noticing, oh look, I notice there's an addiction, and on the back of that I notice there's a judgment of the addiction. So how can I not judge myself for that, and just again come back into witnessing and noticing and allowing, and then with that inquiry and with the vision of I'd like to have balance. It's like just that sort of energetic communication, probably, oh, it'd be nice to have balance, and then listen for what the different responses are. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite a subtle energetic awareness, but the fact that you've practiced listening for a year means you may not have exercised, but you've built your muscles of awareness up. So you can be sensitive to the nuances of the body's signals, and from your conscious self,
Yes.
I say from your conscious self now, you can offer that request to the body, or the invitation to co-create something new. So look, there's a trained in addiction. So that means the body is craving because it's got used to an imbalance. That's what that is. It's like, I see you and it's okay, and how about we work together to create something that works better for all of us. That means all of us being me, the mind, and me, the body.
I can do that. Absolutely. It's interesting because I've started to drink kombucha and a lot of kefir. I make my own kombucha, my own kefir, and drinking those probiotics takes away the longing, the you know, you can have a gut longing for something that you really, really crave for right now, but the probiotics takes that away, which leaves me into a situation where I can walk around and I can think, what do I want to eat? I feel that I want to eat. I don't know what to eat because I don't have any taste in my mouth for anything. So I ask myself, do you want a hamburger? No. Do you want fries? No. Do you want yogurt? Might want that. Don't know. Do you want bread? No. So that's an interesting point of view as well, because it becomes very boring to eat. But I want to eat.
Yeah.
So
I totally understand that. I've had the same. Again, if you look at it from a classic transformational path, so in a transformational path, you've had a habit or a pattern, if you like, and then you begin to shift the pattern and you go into that sort of chaos phase, the unknown zone, as they say in the journey, or there's different ways of expressing that. But as you've noticed the eating habit and the body in its own way has gone, oh well, this is how we do it, this is what we get, and we want this because of these imbalances or these requirements, and then you sort of start to on some level let that go, then you have that phase of not knowing, which can be a bit confusing on one level. But it's progress, and it's a sense of, well, I because my habits have shifted, but I'm not yet established new ones that work better. There's that sense of, well, I don't know what I like, and when I look at everything, because I'm in that chaos phase, nothing seems right, because nothing is right now, because there's nothing. There's just that we're in that blank canvas.
That makes absolutely sense, because I recognize that from my spiritual work and my growth in spirit, but I would never apply that into the eating habits. Interesting, Joel. Thank you.
You're welcome. And in the meantime, if you want to eat something, then as long as there's no right and no wrong, just something will come to you. And again, in that unknown space, normally that it's because the mind is used to deciding, but it's again in the handing over. It may be that, well, I just have this in the cupboard, or that would be easy for me to make tonight, and I'm actually feeling tired or lazy or whatever the hell it is, doesn't matter. So I'll just do that, and it's okay. And in, again, that continued unedited place, through that sort of exploration in co-creation with the universe of what is, including other factors, then the new evolution, the new preferences will begin to emerge, and sometimes in surprising ways.
It's interesting, which means that I go shopping and I have these chocolate chip cookies that I can buy, and I can indulge in that, really. And I can enjoy it, really. And I can leave them in the cupboard for weeks. My body doesn't want it. And then suddenly I feel like having one, and I have one. And I feel like, whoa, I don't want anymore. One is enough. I take another one. In case of I want some more. But I don't want them anymore. That's so strange.
When I talk about my physical transformation, the whole buff body program thing, that was a huge difference, because I was, before, I was the person that if I had chocolate in the house, it would all be gone in one go. I couldn't open a bar of chocolate and and without finishing, or even a box of chocolates or whatever was in the house, basically was there, it was gone, because I didn't, because again, I had that kind of habitual behaviour dressed up as liking and desire. And then again, like it was 10, 11 days into the process where my taste buds just changed. And since then, again, I often, people say, "Oh, do you not eat chocolate anymore?" So I fell out of love with chocolate, but I still like it. And, I have it in the house, but it's, like you say, it can sit on the side and not get eaten, or it can, if it's a bar of chocolate, I might open it, have a few squares, and that's enough. And sometimes I might eat the whole bar. It doesn't really matter. It's, but the relationship to it has completely changed. So I'm kind of at choice, or able to be in the truth at the moment. And the other piece of it, going back to the beginning of the energy behind it, sometimes it's about just the pure pleasure of it. Like I'm really genuinely enjoying eating whatever this is, or imbibing whatever this is. And so I'm going to go with that, because again, bringing in the abundance aspect, I've talked all about the abundance thing for me, which was pleasure before money, but pleasure before most things, or different flavors of that these days. But it's like what brings me pleasure. And again, there's subtle distinctions in there, like there is between a craving and a genuine desire in openness. Longing, like there's a real whole body yes that's in alignment, versus a craving. So there's again lots of subtle discernments which as you practice it, they become automatic. So in that same way, for me with pleasure, it's like there's a difference between hedonistic or even self-harming pleasure. Do you know what I mean? You can even go to that point with it, where it's like, well, no, I'm just trying to bury something, calling it pleasure. But again, as you give yourself permission to explore it, you begin to learn your own truths, and that's true of anything. I say, whether it's transformation, whether it's eating, whether it's whatever it is, that seems to be the journey of give yourself permission, open up, discover what's out of balance, start to learn the discernment, start to honor the discernment, continue to give yourself a break when you hit an edge, because at the edge you're going to come into new territory, and therefore the old patterns are going to assert themselves, but you're much better at understanding that, so you tend to transform them quicker. And then you meet a deeper edge, and on it goes in the path of the growth-seeking being. But you begin. I think what happens is, as the background shifts, you begin to really understand that path,